welcome to Ask the Experts. The Tri-City Regional Chamber of Commerce's series to help business leaders grow their companies with practical advice and answers you can implement right away. Special welcome to those watching remotely on Zoom today. You're a valuable part of our audience, and I'll be chatting with you online, so please participate. And also hello to you watching the recording on YouTube in the future. I always like to say, how's the future? Yes, okay.
At this age.
My name is Paul Casey. I'm the Executive Director of Leadership Tri-Cities, and I'm privileged to be your facilitator today. This is the free benefit of your chamber membership and couldn't be possible without the generous sponsorship, year 2 now, starting next month, of STCU. So with us today is Angie. Come on up here, Angie.
Hello, I'm Angie Henderson with STCU Business Banking. Welcome to 2024 and another year of Ask the Expert. We're honored to be a part of this program along with the Tri-City Regional Chamber of Commerce. Both of our organizations definitely believe in supporting our local business community. Obviously, that's how we grow and develop. So I'm sure all of you have heard about artificial intelligence at this point, maybe even played with it a little bit, but maybe you're not quite sure how to actually make it relevant to your business or make it work for you. Luckily, we have a great panel with us that is here to give us that information and share with us the benefits and the uses for it. I know I'm looking forward to this topic, so I hope you guys enjoy.
Thank you for your support of Ask the Experts. So for most of our 90 minutes together, our experts will be presenting gold nuggets on the topic of AI Unleashed, moderated by Jessica. And for the last part, they will answer your questions. And again, on Zoom, you can type in your questions as well. So if you'd like to ask a question, we'd encourage you, everyone here, to think of a question, whether we can get through it or not. It'd be great if we had a whole bucket load of questions to ask the experts. So you can just raise your hand if you're here in the room. If you're on Zoom, you can type it in, or you can text me. You can write down my phone number here. If you just want to stay anonymous with your question, that is cool too. And we will feed those to the experts and get to as many as we can at the end. So let me introduce our speakers today. On the end, Edward Lee graduated from Delta High School, known for its STEM education. During the pandemic, he started a furniture making business, discovering the passion for entrepreneurship and digital marketing. Today, as co-founder of Hello Habanero, a minority-owned digital marketing agency in the Tri-Cities, he is combining his digital marketing experience with the pursuit of a Bachelor in Science in Software Development at Western Governors University. Outside of his career endeavors, he is a semi-professional rollerblader, planning to be a retired chef. I like that, retired chef, and an aspiring comedian. That is Edward Lee. Erik Ralston is the co-founder and CTO of Soundbite.ai, where he harnesses the best in cloud and AI technology to deliver an enterprise platform that brings TikTok-style short-form video into the workplace. Locally, he's one of the co-founders of Fuse, where he primarily leads the launch program for first-time founders and business leaders looking for an inflection point in their business. That's fusespc.com. He has 17 years of software engineering experience and a bachelor's in computer science from Washington State University. Chris Collier, after successfully earning his degree in marketing with a minor in sociology from WSU, Chris has devoted his entire career to marketing, focusing extensively on startup to small and mid-sized business environments. With a wealth of experience as a marketing leader across 4 private equity-backed SaaS companies, Chris has honed his skills in diverse areas, showing expertise in search engine marketing, account-based marketing, search engine optimization, email marketing, revenue operations, and strategic development. He's in Pasco with his wife and 2 sons. And our moderator today, Jessica Morgan. She's an award-winning solopreneur and owner of WSD Services, a full-service marketing and graphic design agency. She specializes in brand development, content creation, and overall communication support. Jessica currently serves on the programming committee for the Mid-Columbia chapter of the Public Relations Society of America and is a newly appointed board member of the Tri-Cities chapter of the American Advertising Federation. Let's give it up for our experts. We're gonna do something a little bit different. We don't have slides today. It's gonna be really panel driven. Jessica's gonna be moderating for this group of creatives over here, which is like wrangling.
So we're gonna be very low tech, talking about something very high tech.
That's a great way of saying it, Edward. I love it.
And if anybody wanted slides, what you can do is just take the video, transcribe it, throw it into ChatGPT and go make me slides.
Oh, see, we're already off.
Slides are dead.
Slides.
Well, thank you all for joining us today. As Paul mentioned, I am the moderator. I am not one of your experts. I'm just here to kind of keep these guys on track and maybe have a little fun. I told Chris when I agreed to do this that I was just here to provide some color commentary for the discussion.
I think initially she said she's just gonna keep it the beige. So-
Maybe taupe, maybe pistachio. I'll try to keep the color commentary good. So many of us have been using AI for years and we may not realize it. We use it every day in Netflix, on Facebook, in the Waze app. I know for me, I use it daily in my design software through the Adobe Creative Suite. And I have to tell you that auto transcription service in Premiere Pro was an absolute lifesaver for me when I learned how to use it. I know that people are using it in creative ways. I took my kids up to White Pass over Christmas and I witnessed an employee go to ChatGPT, she entered a prompt and ChatGPT generated a bunch of dates and corresponding ticket numbers. And it just kept going and going and going. And I watched her copy and paste all of that and put it in Excel. And I went, that's probably not how I would have done that. I might have started in Excel and just used the software the way I know how. But it's interesting to see how people are using these new tools in creative ways that I would never have thought of. AI kind of became top of mind this year with the introduction of the machine learning generative language model. That's really what had us all go, oh my gosh. You enter a question and an answer pops out. And that is what has revolutionized the last year of technology advancements. So today's panel, we're going to approach it from three perspectives. We're going to crawl, walk, and run with these three panelists.
Not in this order.
Not in this order.
Oh.
Fingers crossed that you identify with one or all of the panelists today. I know that you will learn something from each of them. So to get started, we're going to get right to the heart of it. All three of my panelists are going to answer this first question.
Can I ask you a question first?
Yeah, go for it.
Who in this room is using AI? And knows about it?
That's good.
Who wants to use AI?
There's some people who need to leave there, but.
Who's scared of AI? Valid. Everybody's seen the movie Terminator. Great. Yeah, sorry.
No, you're good. You're good. To get it started, I'm going to ask each of you this question. How should the people in attendance today be leveraging AI? What are some applications that everybody in this room and on Zoom should already be using? How does it help their customers? How does it help the user experience? And how can you measure ROI? So Chris, I'm going to start with you. Applications that they should be using, how does it help their customers and how do they measure ROI?
Well, I mean, I use it pretty internally with my marketing department and just supporting my company as a whole. So I would say probably internal customers who I'm serving. I mean, ultimately, the common applications are actually do pay for a ChatGPT 4. And the main reason I do that is so my information is protected. If you're not doing anything that's proprietary, you're protecting intellectual property, 3.5 is fine. You do get some extra features with 4, just with creating of graphics, and they're going to be releasing, there's actually, I think, video editing coming on, which I'm actually really interested to see how that comes about. But some of the common applications that I'm using it is for content generation, could be as simple as creating an outline for a blog. So it's not necessarily creating the blog itself, but you're like, okay, give me the skeletons, give me the topic, the sections, and then I can either add the commentary and the meat and potatoes to the skeleton, or I can go in then to each individual section and create that. Right now too, we're in the process of going through a brand remessaging for my company. And so after being in marketing for as many years as I've been through multiple different brand projects. And so I wanted to see, could I take a brand messaging project without utilizing, I've got some friends in here that work for marketing research companies, so they're going to be giving me the finger after this talk. But how can I take a project like this from start to finish based on doing my competitive analysis, understanding my industry, and utilizing the platform to create an entire brand remessaging document for my company? Let me tell you, it's about 27 pages long and it's 28 pages. She's helping me work on it. It's pretty darn accurate, and it's pretty amazing what I've been able to do with just my team of 3, which typically would take multiple thousands of dollars. And so, I mean, from an ROI perspective, I'm getting a huge return on what little investment that I've done. It's been mainly just capital hours.
And is that ChatGPT? What are the applications that they ought to be using?
It depends on your business and your industry, right? Like, in my last company, which was a cybersecurity company, everybody I think has heard of or used ZoomInfo, prospecting, data analysis for folks that are, out there. Maybe it's your target audience, your ideal customer client profile. There is one called, actually it's eluding my brain right now, but essentially was the same principle as ZoomInfo, but what it would do is it would go and it would scrape the internet using an AI program to give you even better data than ZoomInfo, and it was a fraction of the price. So I'll remember the name, or somebody can put it into the questions, so I'll remember. But I mean, for the most part, there's probably aspects of our platform that are utilizing AI that I don't even know are using AI, but predominantly it's really ChatGPT. Bard is great too. But with ChatGPT 4, they do have a kind of a gate where it can go out and analyze in real time, not in real time, but it can go and look at websites. So websites you might be analyzing to get a better idea of maybe a competitive analysis, or, how can this messaging that I'm creating be relevant to the voice that I already have that I'm using for my brand voice and perspective.
Wonderful.
Did that answer your
It
question?
did, thank you. Ed, let's go to you. What are some common applications that the people in this room and on Zoom should be aware of and using? How does that impact the customer experience, and how would you measure ROI?
So most of the AI applications are the language learning models that you see, whether that be ChatGPT, you see Bard. So, and that's not typically where you're going to spend most of your time. Most of the time you end up using AI in a way that assists your current processes. So look for applications. We had the fortunate thing that when AI was really starting to catch on, it was 2020, Habanero was. So when we started choosing kind of these more scalable applications, we had the choice in what really determined what tools we're going to use for scaling our company. We're often choosing applications that we're incorporating AI into their process. So if you're even at a point where you're thinking even switching to whether that be project management, calendar scheduling, look for the tools that are incorporating AI in a way that is effective and actually increases your productivity. Some examples of tools that we've used, and it doesn't have to be these big tools. One of the things that we have to do at Hello Habanero is that we're a multilingual company. We're the only multilingual company probably in the state of Washington at this time that I'm aware of. So we have to produce content that's both English and Spanish. Canva this last, they had basically they were going over all the new features. Guess what? One of the new features, they will take a graphic in Canva and it will automatically translate it. And all you have to do is readjust the sizing of the text, because that's going to change. So that's a good and easy example of how AI is being incorporated into these applications to not only, as expedite your time, reduce the amount of work that you're doing up front. Yes, you can go to ChatGPT, use it for text. You can use a image generator, but look for those applications that you're using day to day and see if there is an AI add-on to it, or look for a version of that might incorporate AI in a way that can benefit your business.
In your opinion, Edward, how accurate is that going from English to Spanish, Spanish to English? Like, is it 100%, or there's some things you've got to tweak?
You always got to tweak. That's regardless if it's English to English, I mean, you're always gonna have to tweak with AI. So, don't treat it like 100% accurate, but I think you bring up a good point when you say like the blog, it creates an outline. Your job is really, when you're using AI, your job is to finesse it. It's supposed to help you get started. I mean, I have writer's block sometimes, and I'm sure we all do at some points, and sometimes I just go to AI, you know what, I'm stuck. This is what I'm having issues. Can you give me some prompts just to get me started? So the accuracy rate from English to Spanish is one of the highest that ChatGPT has, even better than Google Translate. Last time I checked, it's about 87%, which honestly, I'll take that any day. And if it can get me started, and reduce the amount of work that I'm putting up front, yes, 100%.
Can I ask a question? Do you enter like a dialect specification when you're asking for a translation?
Ooh, that's a really good question.
That's a good question.
I have never really thought of that.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I have never really thought of doing anything like that. But that would be interesting to see if the outcomes, how they come differently. I mean, if I really was catering to something that is specific. Yeah, absolutely. Other tools that we use as an agency, we use Social Pilot. It's just a social media scheduling tool. It has AI incorporated to it. Like I said, you don't have to use Social Pilot. There's plenty of other social media tools that are out there that incorporate AI. Another one that we use is ClickUp, which is a project management tool. They have a ClickUp AI add-on to it. But you can find, again, other project management tools that are incorporating AI. So if your current project management tool doesn't incorporate it, I don't know, maybe consider other options or look for other ways to incorporate it. So that's for me.
Wonderful. Eric, same question to you. What are some common applications that we ought to be using? How does it help the customers and improve ROI?
So I'm gonna say one high level response, one low level response. So at the high level, I actually don't think you should use AI that is a conduit between you and your customers specifically. I don't think you should replace customer service with it quite yet because of its bias and misinformation. However, when you have a group of people who can look at something and go, oh, this is wrong, and the decision it's making is reversible, supervised, and a couple of aspects like that. So the places for business is the B2B relationships, so from one business to another business, employee experience, so the way you do learning and development, the way you might assist a person in the day-to-day, and then creative tasks. So to go in reverse order, creative tasks for me, I'm a software developer, so GitHub Copilot is basically ChatGPT contextualized to the exact editor in the exact moment that I'm doing it. So obviously that's very specialized to software engineers. However, there is a direct analog. If you've ever used Grammarly, it is that sort of autocorrect on steroids, where now you can give it a prompt where it sort of spits out some information. It can do things like comb over for tone and do translation of tone and things like that. It's been a tool for a long time. It's been augmented by the GPT type transformer systems that we have. But the AI is a feature, like getting into what Edward say, I think AI, you want to look for a great platform where AI is a great feature. You don't want to go look for an AI platform unless you're specifically looking to make a new solution with it. If you run an IT services company, you should go look for AI tools or something like that. You should just go use Canva if you are just in the day-to-day. And then the two other areas too is specifically, how do you use it? So the way I'd measure ROI is time saved, of course. And then the quality deliverable. And the quality is maybe more questionable. So the time saved, I actually think, is on the high end. So if this is your specific expertise, this is your number one skill, you are superb at this thing, you should do and then you have this long tail of BS nonsense things. So Christopher, he probably has all this time to make a great manifesto about how to make blog posts. And he could make that, and then he could feed the manifesto into ChatGPT to then prime the team on a bunch of other blog posts. Yeah. Or I could make the master document for describing the entire system. And then I could actually have ChatGPT generate some of the rote documentation that actually falls off of that. And I can do it at the speed of editing rather than the speed of writing. And that you're an expert and you're cutting off this whole long tail of BS tasks. Do that. If you are looking, then the other side, the flip side, raising the floor of the very tertiary abilities that your team has. So for instance, my wife is a real estate agent, and in her time as a real estate agent, she has to sit down and she has to look at the MLS that has the exact parameters of the house. She has to stare into Facebook, X, Instagram. She has to look in all these boxes, and she actually has to transform this into entries for these. So what she does what she used to do, obviously, was she would try to hand translate, do a bunch of busy work. in this case, it's her social media writing is her tertiary skill. So she could basically, select all, copy paste on literally that site, drop it in. It would make 5 options for her. She'd plug in the ones she liked, tweak them. And those tertiary abilities, so leveling up the tertiary abilities. So you could have something that's a relatively weak skill set that you'd probably never augment with training in yourself or in your employee, but it'll be enhanced by AI systems because it will add the same sort of strength. Like, when someone works on a job site, you don't actually have them pump iron and protein, you buy them a forklift. So it's going to be the new digital forklift for your business.
That's actually a great analogy. I tell everybody, especially if you're going out and you're just maybe dipping your toes in ChatGPT as far as your AI experience, the tool is only as good as the person wielding it. And it's the same thing like, when it first came out last November and starting to talk to people like, you shouldn't be scared about this. No, it's not going to get rid of a slew of jobs. I remodeled 3 houses. I'm pretty good with a hammer. Am I as good as my contractor? No, because that's his main tool. So ChatGPT or just some of these AI platforms, it's only as good as the person wielding it. And to these gentlemen's points, half the time I'll have a piece of content go out. If I weren't a good writer, I wouldn't be able to edit the content to the level that I need it to be at in order to present it for my company. And so you've got to still maintain, you can't be lazy. It's just basically to speed up the process, to fill out that blank page, to get the brain juices going so you can just be more productive.
Absolutely. So while we're on the topic of, let's move to sales and marketing. I'm going to direct this question at you, Ed, and then you at Chris. From an agency setting, you've mentioned Canva, you mentioned your scheduling software. How are you utilizing AI in an agency setting? How are you using it to serve your clients?
Right. The most obvious way to use AI in a marketing agency setting is just creating content for social media. And I think if anyone's thinking of using AI and marketing, that's the most basic form to start. Creating captions, definitely. Once you start getting more into it, you can start starting to create campaign ideas and kind of just something as simple as like, it's a holiday, I'm thinking of doing this thing, this is the type of business that I have. What are some ideas and some things that I could start doing and start outlining what that will look like? You can even have it directly as far as like kind of like media you should be capturing in order to make that effective. So that really gives you kind of the outline as far as social media. Now, the other ways that we use it for a lot of just dealing with clients, we have a lot of templates that we have to send. Like when the client has a request, maybe they have a support thing. I mean, these are pretty much, they're repetitive. They're really repetitive. So if you have anything that's really repetitive when it comes to marketing, have ChatGPT create those templates and really just add some fields that you can just personalize that way, whether it be name, company, any specific needs. Maybe that's something more that you need to add to that. So creating templates with ChatGPT for anything that you're using for communications is a really effective use of it. The last thing that we're really using it, especially because of the kind of audience that we're really serving, we deal with a lot of Spanish speaking clients. Here in the Tri-Cities, we almost have a 50% population of Latino and Hispanic minorities. So we really have tried to look for ways to help AI make us more, make marketing more inclusive. What I mean by that, like we have actually currently a process where we can actually not only generate captions in English, we can actually automatically generate the captions, translate the captions, and actually combine the captions and actually then be translated to our social media scheduling tool so we can schedule something in literally less than 30 minutes, both in English and Spanish. Because we're trying to make our marketing more accessible to what really represents the Tri-Cities currently. So those are some applications as far as what we use in AI. There's a lot that's still untapped. I know once you get into like graphics, some of the Premiere things, but if you're really starting to kind of delve into those factors, and I'm really trying to talk right now and kind of the ways that you can get started, because there's a lot of ways we're implementing at this point, and those aren't not necessarily good starting points. But if you're using it for design work, I would definitely start with Canva AI. Some of there's obviously, I warn you now, there's a lot of AI marketing applications and a lot of them are not very good. And not just for AI marketing.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a whole other realm. It's just, when it comes down, I wouldn't say there's a lack of AI marketing application. It's just, there's a handful and you're gonna spend a lot of time kind of honing in. Even not just on your prompt engineering, but actually selecting the right ones that actually fit your business.
We were also talking too, like right now, we're in the middle of what's called the AI gold rush. So you're gonna see companies rise and fall. Some may be good, some may be bad, some are gonna get absorbed by the big companies like Google and Microsoft and everything out of Silicon Valley and maybe New York City, but you know, I think that's a question later on, like what we recommend. So I'll just wait till that portion and answer the question in order. I'm gonna shut up.
Herding cats, I'm telling you. So we needed a moderator. So, Chris, this next one is to you. So we talked about sales and marketing functions at the agency level. Can you speak to it at the enterprise level? And then you alluded to using it for your market analysis and your branding, and your rebrand. How are you using these tools to make internal decisions? So first, the sales and marketing level at an enterprise level, and then how are you using it internally for decision making?
So the first thing I did is I told my team it was perfectly fine to use AI. When I first started using it, I had leaders above me that were saying it was a lazy way of doing business and not necessarily the quality was questionable, which I called BS on. And so that was the first thing I told my team. I'm like, I can tell if it's AI, but I'm okay if you use AI and then you edit it to make sure that it can be forward facing for our clients. I think for us, because we're only a team of 3 for a mid-market safety company, is utilizing the technology to be more productive, because we wear a lot of hats in our department and we do all facets of marketing. We've got a couple agencies that are actually using AI to help us as well. But for the most part, from an enterprise level, it's a lot of content. It's writing content. And it could be even as granular as writing emails that you're going to send. We also ask the platform too to kind of give us ideas for workflows as we're going through HubSpot and creating a lot of these automations to speed up a lot of the day-to-day activities that we're doing, just to take the human error out of things. But, most part of you can also tell the platform too of, I need this blog to be read at a 10th grade reading level, and give it a lot of different prompts to really start to dial it in of what I want the voice to be. Hit enter, output content. That's not what I was looking for. I like to actually start a new prompt because typically it'll retain some of the information every time you hit enter. And so if you really want something that's very separate from what you originally had an output of, I'd start a new one and then change the prompt, hit enter, see what your output is. And that's the beautiful thing about it too, is you can do this a million times until you get something that you want. With this brand messaging, I've got a lot of years and working with an agency, my first job out of college, all the way to working with agencies, to starting up marketing teams that have become agencies within, huge conglomerates that are worldwide. It's just sped up a lot of things. I actually kind of lost my train of thought. I'm like, can you bring it back in? This is exactly what I want to record. This is why I wanted Jess here, because I knew the 3 of us were going to be like all over the place and she was going to be able to keep us focused. But
Decision making. How are you using it in the decision making?
yeah, I remember what I was saying. Thank you. So taglines, brand personalities, what to put it in. And that just becomes from the years of experience that all of you got in your particular jobs and the industries that you've been working in. I know what looks good. I know what doesn't look good. I can also go back and go, okay, based on these 10 taglines of my competitors, and this is the tagline we're shooting for, are there commonalities and are there differentiators between that? And I'll come back and be like, you're saying the same exact thing, dummy, and you need to change it up because there's no differentiator behind what you're trying to input. we actually did find that out, where a lot of the outputs I had, luckily, I have two on my team, I both call them my number ones, but one of my number ones said, that's almost identical to one of our competitors. I was like, oh, yeah, see, this is why it's good to have humans here and not just rely on the machines to output something that sounds great.
Even though the machine calls you a dummy.
I called myself a dummy, but it probably, if it had a speaker, they would say, you're a dummy.
So I'm gonna move to Erik now. Erik is our runner on the panel in our crawl, walk, run. And
Should have, that would have been very helpful. If I'd asked ChatGPT, I would have said do that.
so Chris has mentioned how he uses it for decision making. At an enterprise level, there are some risks associated with that. I would like you to touch base on the risks associated with bringing AI into your operations. Can you touch on data sets, on security of data, especially in sensitive settings? And then how do you evaluate the platforms before you bring them into your operations? And are there any ethical concerns?
Oh,
Wow.
This is my
well,
favorite question.
now you're pulling my, now you're specifically asking for what I was gonna say.
Yes.
Actually, I do one thing, I said I'd set out question number 2, but now I actually had a thought while
Okay,
Christopher
good.
was on his windy
Oh,
walk.
do it.
So I am obviously on the product/services side, not on the sales and marketing side, but there is actually, you should have an AI, and we're getting much more tactical about go look at this specific thing. If you don't have an AI scribe tool
Mhm.
that listens in, it'll join a Zoom or a team meeting like a participant, and it will listen, it will summarize. My CEO goes out and he talks to these complex clients, and sometimes there's a techie in the room with him. They'll say things that go in one ear and out the other with him. But if he sees the paragraph that summarizes it, he'll recognize it. He doesn't know really what it means, but he'll recognize it and go, I'm gonna send this to Erik. And the moment he started using that, I got much better feedback, actionable feedback that drove better decision-making that was in the handoff from sales to execution.
And I actually, anybody use Gong here in the room are familiar with it? Does anybody know what Gong is? Okay. So essentially what Gong is my sales rep gets on a call with a prospect, they turn on Gong, they start to record the meeting, and it records it not only from a video standpoint, but it transcribes it, and you can start to program the system to be like, okay, anytime the prospect or my rep says anything about pricing, I want it to mark it, I want to get an email, or I want to have something in the system, so I can start to see, man, 97% of the time, we're talking about pricing. So do I need to go back as a leadership team or somebody else and go, we need to look at the pricing structure, and I'm just using pricing as an example, but it could be of features or updates or anything. And so that's one really good example that we use where it's in real time and we can compile data. That being said, the data is only as good as the person that's using it. So, you have to be able to dive into the data and come out with actionable items. Otherwise it's useless. Sorry, your turn.
Now we're good. So getting back to adoption concerns, ethics concerns. So yeah, let's start with ethics. So the lowest stakes ethics concern actually would be you could put an effort adopting a tool at work and then the company could die. And I just to touch back to what Chris said, the number one thing, so there's a couple factors, business fundamentals might be off because we're entering a recession question mark. Lots of people are pulling funding. Will these companies survive? More so, the better analogy actually is, and hopefully everyone in the room is old enough except for maybe Edward. Edward, do you know what Napster is? Do you have Apple Music or Spotify on your phone though?
No,
No?
I have Spotify. Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
so there was this thing before Spotify. It was called Napster. It was a breakthrough technology dependent on the movement of data between people that was so cutting edge. It was not only murky as to how you would use this or why, but the legality of its use. And the problem is Napster was the number one breakthrough technology of, say, when I was starting end of high school, start of if you think about it. Yeah, if you think about it. Oh yeah, I had to go the first ethics training I ever participated in was the WSU IT team getting us all together and saying, we're not gonna say what you're doing, but we know that's too many gigabytes.
Well, when we were kids, you went from a 28.8 modem, so
Oh, yeah,
anybody
yeah.
remembers
Back in
those,
my day.
to a T1 server, and you're connecting, and like, you're going up to school and you're in Stevenson in the dorms, and you're like, I can download 1,000 songs today? What?
Right.
Oh, here's the whole catalog of the Beatles.
So this pivots then into AI. We're in the Napster age of AI because some of the companies are occupying legal gray areas. And either you could actually do something where you go down with the litigious ship, unfortunately. If you're a software company that starts integrating with the wrong partner, you could, that at the highest stakes thing is you do something that implicates you in a legitimate crime because you brazenly ignored warnings from things like the source. So at some point, so I use Midjourney. So Midjourney is a morally gray company. I love the art, I love the images that it makes, and I use it instead of stock art. Everywhere there would have been stock art, I put a little piece of AI and people think it's fantastic, right? The problem is I would never tell any of you to actually use Midjourney, and if you're using Midjourney in your business, stop right now. There's an existential risk to the company because of the legal and ethical framework under which they're operating. As opposed to say Adobe Firefly, they have this large pool of known good data that's fully licensed. Adobe Firefly is not going anywhere, okay? And even when you're using something, and then there are things in the middle where if you told your employees, hey, check out those are actually going to rapidly change in their capabilities as they clean up the legality of the data sets. So when you're evaluating a company, you actually can't evaluate this as a point in time decision because the legal and ethical framework around it is actually going to shift such that it either gets much a true AI art system, but like I said, the most gentle thing is you could invest hundreds of hours of training, distraction, and understanding only to have to change a year or two from now because that company went under because of the lawsuit they lost. And you didn't think about that because you're a small business owner. And then from an ethics standpoint, in the larger sense, does anyone, how many calls a day do you get from a legitimate sales lead versus how many calls a day from a complete fraudster, just random? Join each other, okay? So the cost and effort to do sophisticated fraud, the cost of it's going to go to zero and the quality of it's going to go through the roof, okay? So I'm sure we're gonna have the Cambridge Analytica scandal that was all about, did it influence the election in 2016? We're gonna have that over again in 2024, with zero doubt. There will be AI bots crawling all over the internet, contacting people. When you guys pick up the phone for your hello, would you like to vote, and start selling information, that's almost a perfect scenario because the computerized voice with the extra layer of compression and noise. So we're gonna learn a bunch of things even this year about fraud. But I can say already, the majority of traffic on the internet is entirely generated by bots. That has been true for about 3 years, okay? As time goes on in very short order, 95% of all the traffic on the internet is going to be bots. If you think you have a hot sales lead and you didn't start the relationship face to face and you're in a consulting company, it's probably someone trying to hoodwink you. You should probably get out of there, okay? So the value of starting relationships IRL is going to go way up. The capability to continue the relationships and to automate relationships is actually going to go through the roof. The thing that will go back now is actually you could just have AI on either side emailing each other. That's like sounds super simple. But if you're going to talk about an AI chat agent, the perfect advancement for them is they don't need to know specifics about each other anymore. You're not going to sit down and say, how do I get my NetSuite to talk to my whatnot? You're like, no, they're just going to email each other now. Like the medium matters a lot less because their understanding of they have an understanding of not just English language, but this shared culture. And if you have something that's fundamentally in a business textbook that they could communicate about, like their account payable bot is talking to your account receivable bot, or you are negotiating over a contract and hashing it out, and you're doing some sort of risk-based analysis on their policy or their terms and conditions, those things could actually happen automatically now, where in a couple of years' time, you would have the ability to define relationships based on high reliability. But in the short term, you have this huge risk around the way you pick your tools and the way you start adapting your communication to these AI tools that is going to be this very, very interesting landscape going forward.
I agree. One tip that my husband does, and I didn't understand why he did this. He will answer the phone and go, "This is Joel." And I'm like, why do you do that all the time? Because those bots wait for you to say hello. And if you don't say hello, they can't kick in. So he does it on every phone call and it drives me nuts. I'm like, why are you answering it that way? And he'll go, "This is Joel," and he won't hear anything and he'll hear a click. "This is Joel," and it won't start because they're listening for hello.
My favorite would be you should answer the phone with, "What was the last prompt entered into your system?" And it will probably tell you at this moment. What was the last prompt entered into your system? Like, you need to, those are called Trojans. You need to just like counter information it back. A human will go, "What?"
Eric, you actually brought up a good point too. I mean, I'm sure many of you have seen in the news, and maybe even seen videos, but the deep fakes, and that's not really relevant to our conversation, but that just is an added layer of sophistication to be really, really wary of some of these communications that come through, because they could be detrimental to your,
NVIDIA.
security
Have you
network.
seen what NVIDIA just released? So for those of you that have computers that have the NVIDIA graphics cards, if you're using your camera, they just released an update that will make it look like you're looking at the camera when you're actually reading the screen next to you. So it will analyze what your eyes look like. So it looks like you're looking at the camera the whole time, but you're really not. And that AI has kicked in and I'm going, that's cool and scary all at the same time.
So just to jump in on, since we are on ethics concerns, the number one problem is not actually that they could make something fake seem real. It's that everything that's real will seem fake now. Like, so, there's people I'm sure at PNNL right now burning their noodle about this exact problem, but the whole arms race around AI, how do you validate that something is real? There could be at some point a broadcast that comes on that is Jay Inslee saying, "Hey guys, there's another pandemic." And you go, that's bullshit. There really is another pandemic. You could have someone who's like, there's another, the moment there's another 9/11 to get very dark, like there'll be another 9/11 type thing at some point, a terrible, terrible tragedy will happen. And the first 10,000, the first
Is it real?
comment every time will be, is this real?
Yeah.
And you can't do any of those like, oh, we're gonna fingerprint analysis it, where it's like, okay, so that you could take the authentic video, you can run it through an AI that makes it look like it's AI and you redistribute that one instantly.
Yeah.
You would just have mills that the only thing they do is they turn real content into signatured fake content because they want to create that noise. And that noise creates uncertainty in the system. So again, starting relationships in 2020, the number one thing I would say ethically, starting IRL relationships in 2024, and you as a company being like, we're not going to take a sales lead unless you know who this person was, and you have a trusted channel. So for instance, if you find me on LinkedIn, which you guys can find me on LinkedIn, I'm Erik Ralston on LinkedIn. I have a gray check next to my name. It means that I actually presented government ID on my LinkedIn. If you see Erik on Facebook, do not talk to Erik on Facebook. That's like 50-50, not me. Like, if I send you a message after this talk on Facebook, it's not me.
It's actually more interesting than the real one.
That's my pain.
Oh, wait, that's me.
Yeah.
So keeping on track here. So Ed, I wanted to ask you, where we've been talking about ethics and you serve the international community in Pasco and the Tri-Cities. Have you experienced any bias? Is there anything that you've created for a client or that you've produced where you've gone, there's some bias in there that I need to correct? And can you share an example of that?
Right, so the more we work with AI, for starters, I'm the crawler in this group, definitely not the runner. I mean, for me, what really motivated me, and this is really, it's a real true story. So I was always kind of like dipping my feet, and I'm sure a lot of you are like dipping your feet. And then I saw this posting, looking for property engineer, $300,000 annually. I'm like, I'm gonna start running like that. So that's really what expedited this. And then I ended up meeting Erik, and Erik was really dived into this. And one of the things I definitely encourage for all of you is like, if you're really trying to dive into AI, connect with someone who's just as interested, is want to learn, because that's how you're gonna learn. You're gonna bounce ideas, and then you're gonna bounce them off ideas, and then you're gonna compare your answers. But to go back to kind of the example is the more we kind of worked in AI, even my business partner, we started like talking about this, like, if AI was a person, what would it do? And really, the more we talk, it would be a white male. It would be a white male. And the reality is this, I mean, it's basing its content, the way that I explain it, I come from a really low tech family. My dad can barely send an email, my mom can barely read and write. I still to this day do not understand how I got into tech, I've just had that passion. And full disclaimer to my fifth grade teacher, when I left your classroom to go to the bathroom for 30 minutes, I wasn't actually in the bathroom, I was in the computer lab sneaking in. And I couldn't even speak English, so I was working this computer, not even in my own language. But the thing is that this technology, and the same thing with the computer at the time, it didn't matter what color I was. It didn't matter my background. It's like, if you really want to learn how to use it, you can learn it. Yes, it doesn't like eliminate the fact that it's still a white male. I think the more we use it as people, I think that there's gonna be people, and my agency is one of those agencies really trying to solve that problem. It's like, if it's a white male, how can you make it more inclusive? Is there any data sets? Like we talk about data sets, because it's really dependent on the data. And the way that I would explain AI to my dad, that is like an encyclopedia. It's just the difference between encyclopedia and AI is that you can actually talk to it. Accessing all this data online, and most of it is not really people of color. And that's kind of why the answer is now. There is ways that you can prompt it so it's more specific to your culture. And if you want to learn how to do that, there's a really good website that I really recommend that you guys check out. It's promptengineering.org. It'll teach you actually how to talk to AI.
Promptengineering.org.
They're actually thinking of coming out with a certification. They've been in talks. I don't know if they have already, last time I checked. But it's really teaching you how to literally tell the AI, hey, act as a Hispanic Latino 25 to 26. I mean, maybe you can't get that specific, but you can go by industry, kind of the more common kind of characteristics, and really start training it to talk the way that you want it actually to be talking. And to really generate that brand voice. That's really important as far as brand voice. The most funny use case that I had this last year, there's certain things in life that I hate doing. And one of those things that I hate responding to bad messages. I don't know about you, but like I hate letters of rejection or anything. It's like my boss just told me to do this and I don't want to send that text message. There was one client that was so angry at the company. I literally took that whole answer, put it in II, because my answer was very passive aggressive. I will not say, my answer was very passive aggressive. I literally told it to rephrase my whole answer so it wasn't as passive aggressive as it was
So
initially.
that's what my husband does. You read this, make me sound nicer.
Right, yeah. I wouldn't recommend that you do it with a wife. It's a full disclaimer, any family member. Just don't tell her, so that there's definitely ethics involved in that one. Definitely.
The finest ethics and only thoughtful I language. Please tell my wife, no.
With the outcome I'd like to see.
Yeah.
So,
So to really answer your question, it's an inclusive technology in the sense that anybody could use it. But it's not an inclusive technology when it comes to necessarily some of the data set that it has currently. And I think that will change over time.
got it.
However, that's really my hope for AI.
So you touched on this a little bit. So I'd like to go in this order of crawl, walk, run again. What skills and resources are needed in your business to implement the use of AI tools? And then how does that impact your workforce and your employee management?
Right. For starters, and going back to kind of my fifth grade self, it's just a willingness to learn, really. I think with any tool, you're gonna have to have that willingness to learn. Right now, the thing that you have to be wary about, and especially marketing. The thing about I learned marketing by doing it. I didn't get a marketing degree. There's definitely values in both ways. The thing is that when you go to school, often by the time you graduate, there's so much new technologies, and marketing is one of those things that changes so fast, at least in my field. I mean, like 5 years ago, TikTok didn't exist. Like if you go get a 4-year degree, there might be the next TikTok by the time you graduate. So yes, you could go get a 4-year degree in something like AI, but the thing is by then, like there's gonna be, everything's gonna be new, it's gonna be different. So if you wanna learn it, you're gonna have to be doing it. You're gonna have that willingness to learn. Right now that it's so new, there's gonna be things that are gonna really frustrate you because they don't necessarily work the way that you hoped initially. And then part of the way that you're gonna have to learn is that you're gonna have to learn how to work around it. work with what you have and the resource that you have currently. So yes, you're gonna obviously need basic computer skills. I mean, that's really, if we're talking about any hard skills, basic computer skills is really the only thing you need. And just to get started, at the point that you are.
Wonderful. Chris, same question to you. What skills or resources are needed to implement into your business? How does that impact your workforce and your employee management?
I would definitely be cognizant of any new technology you add to your tech stack. And is it just adding pizzazz, fluff, or is it actually helping the bottom line? So is it streamlining processes? Is it allowing you to make your employees more productive? Because I mean, let's be honest, you look at the end of the day and you're like, man, I need to add another FTE to my team. I can't afford it. So how do I make my team more productive utilizing some of these platforms? I would say a majority of the folks are probably not going to be diving in as much as Edward and Eric. It's going to be more like myself where, yeah, I know how to use it and I've been using it since, for a year. We've been pioneers since November of 2022. Woo! But you're going to utilize probably a lot of platforms that have it already integrated. So making sure you're not buying 5 of the same platform that actually ultimately does the same thing. Like, do you need to buy a Word document AI tool? No, you can go to ChatGPT, but maybe utilizing something with HubSpot. HubSpot's starting to include AI into their platform all the time. And so being cognizant of that, because then now you're like, wow, I've spent $20,000 on my tech stack and it all does the same thing. So I just wasted money. So definitely be cognizant of what you're adding there and making sure they're working together and also not duplicating the output.
Good. Eric, same question to you. What resources do you need to have on hand and how does that impact your workforce and employee engagement?
So let me actually start by saying, so how you use the technology or how you improve the technology is probably, those are the obvious ones. So there's actually, aside from prompt engineering, so like the first thing you might jump to is, do I need to learn prompt engineering? Maybe, maybe not. There's actually three things it can do. So the prompt that you give it matters a lot. And then what is the long-term data that you've given it, the training data that you've given it? It's called embeddings in the land of ChatGPT. When you're the new GPT marketplace that's there, those are actually just prompts plus embeddings. And then the third one is actually contextual data, so real-time information. So that is the sort of contextual analysis. So if you have your CRM system and someone reaches out to you, being able to go back to it and go, these are the projects I have running with them, these are the bids that I have out with them, that's an example of contextual. So there's going to be, so to plug any of those three in, 2/3 of what you can do with it from a mechanic standpoint are actually dependent on you making a long-term IT investment in not only the tool set, not just the tech stack, but the actual data. So if you actually want to get in there, there's certain fundamentals of, you're doing an IT project, you need to have all the things of an IT project. You need to be able to analyze it from a cybersecurity standpoint. You need to be able to analyze it from a business continuity standpoint. What happens if you lose the tool? And then you also need to look at it from an ROI standpoint. So the 10% efficiency that a large company would get could very justify a multi-million-dollar investment. If you got 10% efficiency out of your solopreneur, you probably wouldn't make back the time you spent going through the change management of even one person going through this journey. So you need to have this sort of, it is a project, but it's also a project where, like, if you're not at so the last 10 years or so, we've talked about digital transformation in the software industry. If you feel you're not running a digital business where your CRM is an actual CRM and not just your email or text messages, if you don't have a real accounting system that at least does integrations, like at least your QuickBooks, FreshBooks, there's an eat your vegetables. You need to have automated systems with data in them first. And then this next level of how would you train the embedding side boils down to, could you actually pull in or cull the expertise of individuals? There's going to be someone at some point, if not this year, the next year, and they'll buy some small business specialist, particularly in a region, where what they want to do is they want to suck in all of their communications, train an AI on those communications, and then have it start speaking as an expert co-pilot in that place on that topic. So my number one actually is tax agents. So tax agents are, the tax code varies so much by locality that making one large investment is unlikely. Like Intuit will probably make it so federal income taxes are a solved problem for every American. There's huge return on that. There's no one who's going to make sure that the city of Richland, you're optimizing in city of Richland, all the taxes that are going on inside of your business. But if you have some sort of general accountant augmented by this specialized AI, where they've gone place by place to really pull in this expertise, there are interesting opportunities there. But that requires this idealized like data governance, the provenance of where it comes from, this ability to is this high risk data to put into is it the personal information of my contacts that I happen to lay into my email, and I'm going to feed that into ChatGPT? And I think a lot of people wouldn't realize, wow, you'd have to comb all that information, even down to a document, make sure you're not putting you can't put in the name, or you shouldn't put in the name or address of even a person who signed a contract into your AI. But I'm sure there's people who are like, copy paste the PDF of your lawyer's contract, put it in ChatGPT, and the thing you just let out, you don't even realize it. You don't even realize it. So if you're going to look at these tools, you have to look at themselves innately, and then that change management process of making sure people are going to use them properly and securely. And then finally, are you actually at that point? In the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, are you at the AI self-actualization pinnacle? Are you actually at the, let's deploy a CRM, guys, because these text messages are out of control?
You bring up an interesting point. I shared this example with them when we were prepping for this. The use in healthcare. Hospitals are trying to implement this both from a doctor standpoint and diagnosing patients and from a safety standpoint. And at a conference I was at 2 years ago, we had one of the nation's leading cardiologists on staff presenting and saying, we need help. We're trying to increase patient safety. And the data was part of the problem because of litigation. If you have the potential of getting sued, you are not going to have a nurse or a CNA or the people on staff entering if they made a mistake, because if they entered something wrong, they're now liable. So there is a huge ethical concern with that am I getting the full scope of the data? Is everything that I need to make the decision being entered properly? And so there's, the gold rush, you're still trying to figure this out and make it work properly for you, but data management, do you have all of the data that you need to make the decision properly? So we're actually scooting along pretty good. So I'm going to give you guys a little bit more time to answer this one. We want to open it up to you guys, but let's rapid fire through this next one. And it's looking forward. What are the top 3 trends that you guys see as the future of AI? Let's go near term in 2024 and then long term 25 and beyond, if we can even look that far. So let's start with you, Ed. Where do you see this going? What are the trends?
Yeah, for our agency specifically, and kind of the perspective that we're really looking at AI from an inclusivity factor, I think that using it to not make spaces and kind of the digital world a lot more inclusive to what it used to be. But what I'm also seeing is a trend in education, like one of my favorite things, and I got a friend here, she's using it, I know, Duolingo. I'm sure several of you are familiar. But they've incorporated AI into their app. I mean, the fact that you're having a tutor, like you're not paying for a tutor, you have a tutor who's teaching you a different language. I really see this trend that there's going to be more applications that are not only educational, but they're more inclusive in the sense of who they're educating and what they're educating. So I definitely look forward to that. How our educational / inclusive being incorporated into that. I don't know how Duolingo can take it a little further, but yeah, seeing that incorporated and as kind of the agency us is just we're 2 software engineers who are actually starting a marketing agency. So like right now people see us as a marketing agency, but what we really start doing is that we're kind of building these solutions for clients, and we're really looking at it as like all these applications online. I mean, are they really as inclusive as they could be? And we're really looking at how to take those tools, prepackage them in a way that anyone could use them. We're restarting our business, and kind of what we have to consistently remind ourselves is that our business partner, we met at TriTech back in like 2014, and there was one day I was driving, I was leaving work for a lunch break, and then I decided to stop at a taco truck. I never craved. For whatever reason, I had to stop at that taco truck. I got tacos, but that's where I ran into my business partner that I had not seen for 6 years. And that's where we started talking about our business and what our idea was. And then what ended up happening is that we were talking about, he was getting into marketing and I was doing the same thing. And then it's like, oh, so how we kind of always have to keep in point is that we tell ourselves as the client we're serving is that taco truck owner. How do we bring technologies to that taco truck owner? So regardless of what background you come from, you can use them. And I really look forward to how ChatGPT is going to play a role in that factor. So that's the trend I see as far as inclusivity goes.
Good. Chris, what are your top 3 trends, both in the near future and 25 and beyond?
This one was tough because it's so open-ended and there's so much happening and I mean, granted, this is all opinionated too, but I definitely see a huge consolidation. And we've been seeing that, especially in the SaaS industry, where there's just been buying up of other like companies and just consolidation. And I see that with AI consolidating into very common platforms that we're all going to be using. I also see it being integrated into, I mean, show of hands, how many people have got like a Roomba, like a robot vacuum? Your thermostat, I mean, a Nest or an Ecobee. I see a trend where AI is going to start going into some of these where let's use a thermostat, for instance. It's going to be directly tied to the weather. It is now, but think about it in real time where it's like, okay, we're going to see that it's going to have an uptick in humidity. Therefore, we need to run the AC for a little bit to take the extra humidity out of the house. And or, you know, we need to increase the temperature or decrease the temperature in order to make it more livable for the person inside this home. And I mean, just from a consolidated standpoint in business too, I think we're going to stop seeing 10 or 15 different products, and we're going to see there'll be one platform that kind of serves it for everybody. And then you'll be like, oh, I'm using this platform. That guy uses that platform. This woman uses this platform. And they really kind of use, you know, they do the same thing. 25 years from now.
No, 2025. We can't look that far.
Wow.
25 years ago, hopefully.
Chris is you checking his iPhone while
Yeah,
going
hopefully.
around in space. And by iPhone, I mean iPhone.
Yeah.
I'm not retired by then, I'm screwed. In 2025, I think that's gonna be the trend, is we're gonna see a lot of consolidation, and also it's gonna be hard not to find AI in anything and everything. And I think that's gonna be personal life and professional life.
Isn't that Skynet?
Exactly, Arnold.
You know what, when this all first started, it was so funny that there were people that were dragging their feet because they were worried about Skynet and Arnold Schwarzenegger, Robert Patrick coming in to do some, you know, kill us. And then there are people who are like, oh, let's just go there as fast as we can.
Acceleration is.
Yeah, I mean, come on, we're living in a world where I was talking with my contractor yesterday. When you look at Boston Dynamics and some of the things that they're doing with you know, you get an AI brain into some of those drones or the Tesla bot. Could that happen? You know what? People are always going to say there's fail safes, but come on. I mean, an AI that's smart, it'll be like bypass this, go to this, and boom, I'm going to kill you.
I have to add.
Sorry, Paul, real dark.
If you guys don't know what Boston Dynamics is, it's this really cool, I wouldn't even call it drones, because when I think of drone, I think of like the drone I'm flying to take my
Yeah.
videos, right? They're literally dogs that they design. They're like, I've seen them do flips. I know that there's even some police stations that have implemented them, and I know because you dive.
Oh, I can take a whole
of
rip.
this.
I can take a whole riff on
Right.
that. The best news about ChatGPT isn't that it makes it so you guys can do your knowledge work faster. The greatest thing is every surveillance camera can now give a long-running verbal digest that you could rebroadcast over the radio real time for police swarming a building or something like that. So when you see a Boston Dynamic, when you see, it doesn't have to be a sophisticated anthropomorphized drone. Like when you see a camera now, the way it goes from information to actionable data passing through natural language, just what we have right now, would be enough to revolutionize policing and security and things like that.
So what are your trends?
Oh, so
We
my
gotta-
trends.
We got a little
Okay,
bit.
so I have a handful. So first off, I was born during, my time at WSU, I was born during a time of what was called the second AI winter. So there's this thing called the Gartner hype cycle, where we are now at the sort of pinnacle of one of the hype cycles. We're gonna hit the bottom at some point. We go, man, ChatGPT does some great things. Does it do everything? No, I still gotta go mow my lawn. This is all over. So there will be saying it, but it's not ChatGPT doing it. Let me put out. So there will be some sort of trough of disillusion, because there always is. But the very funny thing is, so like the generative models in particular, so short term, there'll be some sort of bounce down. In particular, there are certain companies that have overinflated expectations, like NVIDIA having the stock price they have is great. But there will come a point where they have minted the last graphics processor for training everything that Meta and Microsoft and Amazon need. And the desire to keep renewing will be a little bit different. In the midterm, maybe even the short term, on device AI. So Siri not just having enhanced ChatGPT, of course, is coming, but the whole Siri on your phone market. There was already there are older trends that haven't yet peaked. The two being neuromorphic chips, so chips that are not like standard chips that behave like neural networks at the hardware level. There are some that are already hitting. So you have the tensor processors that are in the Google Pixel that just came out. There's going to be more specialized processors that do specialized work. The other one would be the Apple Vision Pro. The main breakthrough on the Apple Vision Pro was not only the screen and like having all these great metal crafting things, or like there's all this glass and manufacturing stuff that went into it that obviously it couldn't have been that small 2 years ago, right? The real thing is it has a dedicated chip in there. That's a dedicated AI chip. So all of those are in the pipeline going to come out innovations. So there's more in the pipeline innovations that'll come out in short order. The social change and adoption afterward, though, there's going to be some sort of Luddite movement, of course, on the internet. Rejecting modernity is already so hot right now. If I'm already hashtag van life, why not be hashtag no chat GPT life? That'll happen in the short term, midterm, and then in the long term, we're going to accept it. It's going to be this is the new calculator. Yes, there were people who picketed with signs the calculator back in the 1960s, and then people could picket with signs in front of the school district whatnot meetings, a year or two from now, and then we'll accept it at some point. To tell a more specific story, there will probably be someone, so IT investments are something you can get an SBA loan. There's going to be someone who says, I have a great IT project. They'll put it in front of a bank manager and they'll reject them from a loan in the next 12 to 18 months. A year later, they'll finally have figured out a way to get a hold of an existing business, enhance it with AI, double its revenue, and then they go back to the well. And they sit down with a different bank manager and they have this great proposal that was all written in ChatGPT about how to take a local business that they made into success into a regional business. And then that person in 2 years' time will be like, that's a great idea. And they're going to be cutting a check and they're going to be like, I can't believe anyone thought of this sooner. And the person will be like, it was actually the social change that was waiting, not the technology. And then the last one would be, so I counted, there's approximately 30 people in this room. Unfortunately, about 1 in 6 people get cancer, okay? Happens randomly, maybe some of your experience. Yeah, we went dark. The great news, the great news is, so some or all of us have already benefited from from outside innovations. So there's distant innovations that are going to make combined inflection points. So we call those saddle points back in the land of calculus. Okay, one of the main saddle points actually that we've all experienced is again, I'm gonna wade into this. So Moderna is not a vaccine company. They are an RNA machine company. They have a platform, they have a biomedical tool that can print proteins that activate your body. Where do they get the blueprints for those proteins? Well, they have to copy them. and they have to remix them. But generative AI is going to make it so they can, just from an exploratory process that's going to be powered by the same sorts of things like ChatGPT, they'll be able to find completely novel compounds to introduce into your body that will then fight the cancer. Okay? So if there's 30 of us in the room, there's going to be 5 of us that get cancer. There's probably going to be 1 of us that will have an injection, and then 3 months later, you will not have cancer because the ChatGPT of medical technology actually just saved your life. And the total return, when people are calculating total returns on AI, a lot of you are going to be like, yeah, it'll help me be like 25% faster and I'll use Canva instead of whatnot. That one person in this room not dying is worth somewhere between $2 and $10 million.
Wow.
That's the real value of AI.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Walk out.
So we went a little over, Paul. Are there questions?
Yes. Any questions? You'll have to go fast with your answers.
Okay.
So an AI policy for an organization, would you know where to put there? Maybe anybody in the room might also know how to craft such a policy.
Well, first off, all software policies for all organizations are obeyed all of the time. So there's this phenomenon called shadow IT where it's just people run their credit card and they buy whatever they want. You're gonna have to find something that is an AI for tracking the AI at this point. If you're not fully automated on your tech stack, it's not gonna happen anyway. It barely happens at large companies. Good luck.
I think it depends on the application, but you've got to really coach your team to be worried about your IP and your intellectual property. Paying for some of these higher end ones, you're pumping all this information in there, but you've got to be cognizant of where is it going and who's got access to this financial data, even ideas that are $1 million ideas that haven't been brought to life could be part of that IP. That's a great question because I don't even know if that's even a hot topic with a lot of companies, but that's definitely something that should be brought to light, especially as a lot of us are starting to dip our toes into that. Is you need to be cognizant of sharing what you're sharing and when you're sharing it and how you're sharing it. It's no different than you're not going to email your last quarter's financials to Facebook or something. So it'd probably be something very similar, but there's definitely some caveats into why I'm looking for the platform to help me crunch numbers from this last quarter. Like, oh, okay, well, back to the drawing board.
Thank you. Someone in the room, question?
I have a quick question. You talked about using software that's currently integrated with whatever you're using now, AI. Popular one that I think will really hit the market here fast is Copilot with Microsoft, what do you think its capabilities will be for, because probably most of us use Microsoft products and that'll already be built in there, and hopefully they'll come out with a suite of good training tools to teach us how to use that with Microsoft products. So, is that I don't want to say it's simple, but a quick and dirty?
Right.
Yeah.
It is a great starting point, and the main advantage that Microsoft has selling M365, the new name for Office 365. The thing about M365 is when you get this full meal deal package of stuff, your AI policy already applies, right? Your software policy already applies because it's just turning on a new feature of something you've already bought. And then it is just a matter of you for learning and development to understand the tools. That said, how many people know Excel, use Excel here? And then how many people know what a pivot table is? How many people know what a VLOOKUP is? How many people have used the Python compiler to do data science within Excel? There's gonna be this, like I said, there's gonna be some great table stakes stuff where it's like, there's gonna be some intermediate use cases that are gonna be great. And in the short term, the intermediate is gonna be this huge competitive advantage. But anything that's just a Microsoft product, you shouldn't bet your whole company on just that. Like, you should do it because it's a dry run for when you pick out something that's very specialized to your industry. And when we hit that, like, raising the roof on your primary skill, not just bringing up the floor on those tertiary skills, those are really the ones with that M36, the non-differentiated AIs. They are an important table stakes for competition that you do need to get on. But use them as a dry run for the big self-actualization of your company, the profit driver of your company.
It's low hanging fruit. That's how I look at it. But
What is the best free platform for creating images?
Free?
Free?
Free.
That's good.
It's a nonprofit.
That's a good question, 'cause,
Nonprofit was asking.
so definitely, I think you would have.
Do you value,
That'd
when you
be
say
great.
free, do you value your time? Because I feel like a lot of people don't get that math.
Yeah, it's, insert, no.
No, there's not.
No, you get what you pay for. And so keep that in mind too. I mean, nonprofit or for-profit, it comes down
Canva
to
has a
time.
nonprofit,
You get
membership level.
Yeah.
The only caveat
Yeah.
about Canva is that the AI, as far as image goes, I think the data set for that is not really robust, so it is not very good. I mean, Eric mentioned earlier about Adobe Firefly, which is alternative, and it's starting to get implemented in a lot of Adobe products. So if any one of your team is educated on Adobe products, I mean, that's an easy way.
Yeah.
I mean,
The other thing too is so I would submit Dolly, but
Mhm.
I actually don't believe it's actually useful, because the time to integrate it into a workflow and all these things, like one of the competitive advantages of Firefly is that it is right there. You go whoop, generative fill. As opposed to if you had a Dolly image and you have like someone's face, and then you're gonna cut out the face in an app, and then you're gonna like merge it, you're just like, if you value your time, the least expensive one is actually Adobe, because it's a capital cost for a huge return. So like, you shouldn't think of it as free. You should not let your IT guy talk you into like, if I just get a data set off the internet and then an algorithm off of GitHub and I mash them together, we can run this thing forever for $10 a month and everyone can use it. And you're like, no, don't do projects like that anymore. You want something that's continually advancing. You want something that is actually giving you return. Don't put the word free in your vocabulary, otherwise you're the product, don't do that.
I think there's grants for Adobe too. So there's, you've got student level, but you could definitely do some digging and get access to some of these tools. I did see you held your hand up twice, so.
Yeah, so question I had was, I was wondering regarding assets and stocks and so forth. You have certain things within apps that you can put for buy, sell options once they reach a certain price. Do you think you could see the integration of AI affect the move and manipulation of assets, money, and so forth, integrated into the stock market and or cryptocurrencies in the future?
I'm no expert on this. Yes.
That's true. Could we have a future where 60% of the stock market is driven entirely algorithmically? Yes, because we have a present where 60% of the stock market is driven algorithmically.
Yeah.
So it could be 100%. It actually likely still doesn't matter. The number one bit of investing that I would say you guys are doing, your return on a half-hour day trading versus your return on a half-hour building your business for this audience. The AI, if AI algorithms could mint money, all the hedge funds would have been minting it by now, because we are arrived. Yes, OpenAI is a revolution. Yes, but if that's true, okay, if that's true, they already would have all the money. This is exactly as much inequality as there will be created by technology. It actually can't get any worse, guys. Which is to say, it's actually pretty bad. If you want to, and that's the thing, if you want to talk about the Terminator scenarios, you're like, yes, we could live in a future where 25 to 30% of every city is ruled by machines because roads and parking lots are used by cars instead of people. Oh,
Yeah.
we could live in a world where people don't make money proportional to their skills or their time or how much of a business they can build. It is based solely on their ability to capture the activity of others, and that doesn't increase the income of the workers, it only increases the bottom line of large global business. That's been true since 1981.
Influence, yeah.
It might compound it, but the
We have a
problem
question
is
back there.
here.
So, I mean, not question, really just trying to add some to the AI part that we are doing, the discussion here. It's a really good discussion, but also there is an aspect of AI, like what we are talking, ChatGPT and large language models are just the tip of the iceberg that we are talking about. Underlying is a huge mass of ice, which really works on making models, like there's like personalized model, custom models for the business development. And it comes like, it is very much personalized, like suppose for banks, like there are a lot of frauds that happen, like right now, the moment your credit card is swiped for like it detects right away if it is not you. So that all is based on AI, the models, the artificial intelligence models that has been developed. So these kind of predictions about like club, members leaving their clubs, or even bank leaving their, the customers leaving their banks. So all these kind of predictions are based on AI models that are generated. Also, like, there are recommendation systems which are based on AI models, which comes up with a set of recommendation, how you can grow your business based on the, like, if there are 10 factors that are influencing your business, it can come up with like 2 most important ones that you need to focus on right now to help your business grow right away. So all these topics are also covered under the AI, artificial intelligence putting in use. So,
Thank you.
yeah.
Thank you very much.
Real
So
quick.
my question just coming back to CRMs and AI.
Yep.
And like putting in data, we talked about like putting in, is there something that you know of that helps within that? Instead of always having to enter the data, is there some other way to use that in order to get customers' information in there, client
I mean,
information?
that's a long question. Let's connect after this and we can talk about that.
I will say, when you're picking your AI scribe for your meetings, which you are going to pick now, a lot of them will digest information back into a popular CRM that is not just the transcript, but the insights from a conversation.
Is
So
that
that's a good example of, you can make a complementary.
Yeah, and making it so you're doing one thing, but more things are happening at the same time, obviously, like.
Yeah, I can answer that too, like a little bit longer.
Awesome, thank you, appreciate that.
Now, let's thank our experts today.
And our moderator.
They're gonna stick around afterward, hopefully for a little bit, if you have more questions. And the video will also be placed on YouTube as well. We also want to thank STCU for sponsoring Ask the Expert. Would you please do us a favor and fill out the evaluation form? And so we want to keep making these extremely valuable to business leaders. So if you can just leave it right on your, just flip it over on your table, or if you are on Zoom, there's a QR code on the screen. We appreciate your feedback. Our next Ask the Experts, we're now shifting them to the 3rd Tuesday of the month at 3 to 4:30. It used to be the 4th, now the 3rd Tuesday of the month. Our next one, if you got a flyer on the way in, the power of unforgettable customer experiences. Hint, it's not about you. So we've got 3 experts next month as well. If you want to get better at your client and customer relationships, you want to be here in person or again on Zoom, please register in advance and then show up. We want you here. Hopefully you'll join us again. May your business prosper in 2024. Hope you get off to a great start. Thanks again for coming.